And hello folks, welcome back to Golf with Your Friends yet again. Getting a hankering to make a new level. So I've been playing around a lot in the editor. All the little tricks we've come across along our journey. Playing around with a few concepts that could potentially be used as mechanics in levels. Just generally doing science and things, seeing how different parts operate. Mentioned before, various objects have funky hitboxes, like these, spinning biscuits, for example. We've mentioned before, if you can extend them as much as you want sideways, and they behave normally. But if you reduce their size vertically, horizontally, they actually maintain their hitbox and can push the player and the ball around a little bit. In that way, could potentially use something like that as a means of transport of the player. Is rather, it seems to be inconsistent in its actual ability to push. Yes, various mechanics I've been just playing around with, though. This is just one of them. And in other cases, the objects completely lose their hitbox once they get above or below a certain size. That size seems to vary per object. Let's see. These spin sorters are another object that have that ability. You can extend them upwards or downwards as much as you want, and their hitbox remains consistent with how it appears. But once you once you stretch it out in one direction or another, then suddenly, its hitbox becomes a little bit off, and it has this weird ability to push your ball around. See, my camera my camera's occasionally getting pushed a little bit by this. Which, without a visible hitbox, it's difficult to tell, exactly how that's interacting with a player. Yeah. There's some potential to have, an invisible, means of pushing a ball around. But with its actual hitbox being, round, that does make it a little bit difficult to utilize in that way. But another interesting characteristic we've come across before is that certain objects always, when you duplicate an object, it's out of sync with the rest of the same type. But as soon as you save the game and come back into it, then it becomes in sync again. Like all of these items are normally in sync. You have just enlarged versions here. There's a weird exception, though. Apparently the Pirate Cove pusher. Normally these pushers are always, in sync when you leave and come back. But this one seems to go out of sync after a period of time. Interesting to note. Don't use it alongside the other pushers. Also, I didn't realize you could, make these guys larger, which is potentially useful. You can't make them shorter, I don't think, can you? Okay, yes, you can adjust their other dimensions. Seems to maintain the hitbox that it appears to have. Let's see, let's up that to 50 again. Have ourselves a wide goalie. Kind of trippy to look at. So I think that might kill its... Oh, no, no, it definitely still has a hitbox there. Let's see. Tight, use that, use that. Now we have an extra thick one. Probably find some uses for this. I don't think I can flatten it out enough that I could use it as a bridge, really. Maybe. Number one. I will have to try that out. Yes, I've been trying to find just a kind of jank option for a bridge. Oh, it's a very extended selection point. But yeah, I really wished I could use like this box as a bridge, but it has too much of a clunky hitbox, and it's one of those objects. Once you get it below a certain size, it actually loses its hitbox completely. Like usually about 0.23, like what I have here. If you go below that, then it completely has no hitbox whatsoever. And that would be the only way to like flatten this out enough to make it useful as a bridge. But this as an option. Finding it, no, 1. A little awkward dealing with that selection point, but at least he's useful as a bridge. Where'd he go? I'm seeing his shadow. I don't see him though. Strange. Might have just bugged him out. Oh, there we go. We'll play around with him a little bit later. Yeah, some additional objects been playing around with. Got these turtles, which are... I haven't really seen this sort of utilization of them. If you didn't know, you can hold snap and duplicate an item, and that will sort of keep its centered position. You can just like snap it over where the original object was, and then just sort of adjust its proportions from there. That way it's always centered around the same spot. So these will always be nice and in sync. You can make yourself a nice rotating level that way. Playing around with some of these steering wheels. I was thinking it would be nice to have like a rotating bridge to get across. These bars are a little bit on the short side, unfortunately. But you stack a couple on top of each other. Make a pretty decent rotating bridge that way. Another fun one playing around with was just having a goal sort of raised up off the ground and putting some of these flattened out spinners. These are the ones that normally have scoops in them, but if you flatten them out, they're just like that. And there's enough of a hitbox on the sides of these that it will bump into the ball and move it along out of the area. Sort of force the ball outside of a certain range, move it around. Let's see. Playing around with the idea of like a shifting maze almost. Unfortunately, you can't use these as platforms. They'll just restart your ball from a different position. But you can still use them as walls. Just flatten them out like that, which would be pretty cool. These as obstacles, they work quite well. These water wheels, you can sort of adjust them fit your ball through there and have it sort of be affected by those paddles. Unfortunately, you can't. Well, I mean, you can make them larger than this. It's only like about 4 times its normal size. But if you get about 5 or larger, it actually gets rid of the hitbox of the paddles. It'll still push you though, weirdly. It's sort of like what we were showing off with this thing. Like, it's not running into you, but it'll still like push your camera around. It'll still have the effect on your ball. Which, like, in the perfect spot where it still pushes me around. It's very strange. Some potential use for that. But, yeah, this is about as big as I would want to make the paddles if I'm going to use them. Just have the player have to get through this area. Nice, simple obstacles. Let's see, here's that spinning barrel. Seen this used before. And it's a good alternative to like the biscuit. The biscuit is always annoying just because you have to wait so long for the hole to go around. One's about the same speed, but it has 2 holes, nice and short. Just flatten it out and it works well. And you can land on top of it with your ball and play from there, which is nice. Looking at this opening and closing target, I was like, oh, maybe you could use this as like a launcher. You know, just put your ball like right where the flipper going through. But unfortunately, this it doesn't actually push your ball, and it's complete. Like the flipper part is actually completely intangible unless it's in the closed position, so it cannot affect your ball at all. It's like that. But you know, it's good to know. Could still use this as like, you know, just an open and closing door. But you other objects might use this as a bridge from the side. Of course, you can block off the ball with the doors. This thing, what is it? Wall elevator. Sort of flatten that out real quick. Probably seen this one a few times. Kind of a weird object. So, round it out. One. Right. Normally looks like this, goes up and down. It seems to have a very thin, like, actual hitbox though. Like these iron parts are completely solid, but sometimes you can make it through the wood, or rather. Like, the actual hitbox of the wood is actually, like, right in the middle. It's like a thin layer. So my ball can just, like, sit inside of the, like, visible part of the wood. It'll be blocked, like, once it comes down. Now, I've tried making a bridge out of this. It just has not worked very well. No. It's a very funky hitbox out of it. Let's see. That's everything over there. So, some more interesting items we're playing with. So I was considering the idea of using these waters, or these fluid blocks. There's a few different options for these. But you can hit your ball through them. And, you know, once your ball stops, it'll be considered out of bounds. But you can still make it into the goal this way. So if I hit my ball through into the goal, it would count as completing the hole. So you could use these as walls and just make it so, you know, the player has to hit the ball into the goal first time. Have it count as out. Make like a maze out of these. Just hole-in-oneable, like just like going straight for the goal, but you have to get the exact amount of power so it actually goes in, which is pretty fun. Another thing I was playing around with was the explosives, which do not behave the way I expected them to. So, you can see here I have a few different explosives around. That giant mine off in the distance is going off, which seems weird. But it turns out that adjusting the size of a mine actually just affects its activation area, but not its explosive area, as well as its hitbox. Alright, so that little mine is what actually blew me around, because I was within its explosive radius. Where it looks like this should be able to blow me up. Its explosive radius is the same as the other mines that you see here. That doesn't extend. And you can use this as a platform if you just want to annoy the player. Sadly, this is one of those objects that its hitbox is not necessarily represented by like its visual. So if I flatten this out, for example, it will still have roughly the same hitbox as when it was full. You'll be able to bump into it on the side. Also, there's sort of a almost spherical bottom to it, so you can't really use the bottom side of this. Just, you know, can't run into it that way. Or, I should say, use it as a platform. But the same is true with the green explosives. So its activation area is always just running into the object. Which I've resized that particular explosive to be the maximum size that it can actually blow your ball around if you run into it. If it's any longer, then it won't necessarily affect your ball. Like that flattened out explosive. Like, it still has a hitbox, I'll still run into it, but its explosive area isn't large enough that it'll actually knock my ball around. Another interesting effect is that you can land your ball on the explosives. Oh. Hit the explosive area there. Reset me. Alright, so the explosive area is on the far end, but I can still land on this side. So, if I'm not being hit by the actual explosion, it will continue to set off the explosive barrel, but it can only be set off so many times in a row before it becomes an intangible object. So this can potentially be used as like a floor with like a secret passage underneath. Just fall through. Or you have to hit yourself across. Something to that effect. There's that invisible hitbox on the flattened out explosive there. And one of the cool uses of explosives that we ran into just doing workshop levels is using them as a launcher. You can have like an explosive at one end of a tube, have the ball run into it, and have that pretty consistently launch the player in the same way over and over again. Yeah, definitely like a fun aesthetic to play around, or just an annoying aesthetic, I should say, to play around with, is just like having those enlarged mines everywhere, because they'll continue to make noise, flash, even though they like can't explode on the player. So another interesting thing I was playing around with was the gravity shifts and the water canals. So interestingly, this is the maximum size, the maximum length that you can make a gravity shift. But I've mentioned before, the gravity shift's actual propulsion is dependent upon how long it is. You know, it doesn't matter like, or you know, horizontally how large it is. It only matters like vertically. or I guess in the X direction. But it's a similar case for the water canal. But it turns out that the water canal actually can be extended even further, and at the same length provides more thrust than the gravity shift. So if I go through this, this will launch me a little bit further. Then I can make this twice as long. Grab my ball real quick, show that off. Do some max lengths. So this is about how far a half of the maximum length of the water canal will get you. Pretty good. And if I move myself here, myself pushed by that, it'll get you about the same length, but a little bit shorter. A little bit shorter distance you'll get. And that's just for show, do the extra long one. This will straight up fling you outside the map. That's why whenever I use the water canals like in my maps, I always like shorten them. Otherwise you get like ridiculous speed off of these. Let's see. So then on the walls here, you said I've been messing around with using the gravity shifts to sort of attach you to the ground a bit better. Which we saw in one map that was utilized where you could actually stick to the wall. That only works with less than 90 degrees. Let's see. Here's one little experiment I did. This is actually a 0.01 thickness gravity shift, which has the effect of resetting your shot. So if you want to annoy a player or force them to take like a very quick shot, have it constantly be reset, give them less control over their power, this is a good way to do that. You only have like an instant to like actually make the shot before your power is reset. There we go. So starting over here on this far end. So yeah, I have 2 blocks here. And this is the maximum thickness that the gravity shift can be in. And still maintain control of your ball. So these are all downwards facing gravity shifts. This is just an upwards one with 0.01 thickness. So if you have downwards and it's greater than this thickness, you'll start to lose control of your ball and likely just not be able to control it at all. Like sometimes it'll have that effect of resetting your power, but oftentimes just completely lose the ability to change your power. So this is the maximum thickness that you can have and still be able to control your ball if it's on flat ground. I found that if you do the higher and higher walls, some of the higher walls have lower maximum thickness that you can get to. 6.5 for about 85 degrees, 7 or below for the rest. But yeah. So these are actually really fun. Just knocking your ball around on these platforms. It's a new, interesting way to play the game. So you can like hit yourself sideways and go sideways, or you can hit yourself forward and go up the wall. You hit yourself backwards and go down the wall. That's true of all these platforms, just to varying degrees. It might go up or down more depending on. I believe like the lower angle of platform, the more you'll be able to hit up and down. Now, once you get down to the 85-degree one over here, once I get out of this platform, okay, there we go. Yeah, oop, and out. Alright. So you can still hit side to side just fine with this, but you can only make it you can just make tiny jumps up and down. And with this amount of force pushing back on you to stick to the wall, you can only hit like within the first 2 bars and still like, stay on the wall. About 1.5. Well, yeah, a little bit more than 1.5, and you'll fall outside of the gravity shift zone. Which I can stack more of these zones on top of each other, but I again don't want to lengthen them, or else we'll have that effect down there where you just can't move your ball at all. Let's see. I think there was one last trick. Yeah, I was playing around with this windmill. Turns out you can land your ball inside that white area. Which, you know, normally your ball would just be stuck in here. But you can use this as sort of a sorter. Like, make the player land in different containers, and that pushes them out when they run into a wall. Sort of like skee ball. You know, you put a ramp at the end of this platform and try and make them launch into different ones. Like, further one, like, get you into a better position later on in a level. Thinking that would be a good mechanic to use at least once. Also, interestingly, you can land on these spikes on the bottom end and still count as in. So they're an interesting alternative to the lifts you got. Could just make an entire course for at least one hole using these as the bottom platforms. It would have a similar effect to being in this, where the power of your ball gets reset every time your ball goes up and down. Try that over here. Should be the case with all of these. You can land on them safe, yeah. Tap an earthquake valley or something to that effect. Oh yeah. So those are some basic mechanics I'm looking to work with. Probably not like the elongated blocks like this, but definitely potential there. I think in my next course, would definitely be based around these different mechanics. Oh yeah. Well, it's also the case with these flippers, that they become in sync. There are other objects that have a natural spin to them. You can turn on rotate mode to stop their spin and then adjust like their positions that way. Which unfortunately you can't land on the targets, I don't believe. But you can elongate them and have them just make them into like spinning doorways like this. Oh yeah. So let's play around with making a new course. Tire. Back to level editor. New. So, haven't thought of a good name. Just something, you know, along the lines of maybe clockwork or, you know, so something indicating there's like science experiment going on, maybe Stoic Science or Stoic Labs, something to that effect. I don't know. Playing around with those. I have to put something in that, so just put a period. What kind of music should we do? I'm kind of feeling that. Alright. So we'll sort of do these in order, I think. Of what I showed them off as. Do that one. That way it's all snapped in. Let's pick an aesthetic. I feel like the space station aesthetic is probably the best to go for in this scenario. Create ourselves nice little straightaway. Okay, this does have a hole. Alright. All on one end. Rotate it the opposite direction. Face the way. Oh. How much power does it take to land in this in one shot? Ooh, just enough. Cool. Alright. So we'll put a flag in here. I haven't used this flag yet. Just has that weird nub at the top. Try to keep the flags normal looking. It's not too much confusion as to where the goal is. And then we'll just add in some of that water, or oh, should we do water, or should we do a different one of these? I really like the aesthetic of the water block best. The green, the red, and the purple are just like consistent the whole way through. They don't even look like they should be fluids. Wait, these aren't fluids, are they? They're just blocks. No. No, the red one's fluid. The green and purple aren't. Okay. Duly noted. I think they have that same effect, though. Let me double check that. Can you run into these and not be reset? Huh. So you can run into them, and I'll just reset you. But you can't really go through them. Alright, that's weird. But if you land on top of them, it'll sort of count as being in water and deploy like your flotation device. Just like sit very solidly on top. Duly noted. So I could like use these as outer walls. But I still want to use one of these others as the blockade between the player and the goal. Again, it's like the visual of the water best in my opinion, but can't see the goal through normal water. Can't see the goal through here. At least it's not as apparent that you can get through this. Which I suppose, just as an indicator, you'll want sort of maybe a boat on the red to show that it could be floated on. Let's see. Where's that Egyptian boat? I think it's under one of the other things. Ancient? Ancient, okay. I think that would be confusing for the player. And it's probably just better to use the pirate ship, honestly. Alright. Pirate ship, shrink her down. But small. Okay. What we'll do is we'll have like a block of the blood water somewhere alongside this hole with a boat as a hint to the player that they can float on it. I really wish it had a different, more of a watery look to it. It just looks like jelly. But yeah, I should get the point across well enough. It's on solid points. And how big do we want to make this? 5.5. That should be an okay size to work with. Do one of these. Just hit our ball straight through there. And these will reduce the speed of our ball as we go through them. Yeah, still very much hole-in-oneable. couple of adjustments. Yeah, just make it all a little bit more interesting. Something like that. Then, what do we want as an outer wall? I suppose if we're doing the science aesthetic, we'll just use these. That is intangible. I hate that. Yeah, okay, apparently that part is unusable. Yeah, that one's usable. See? Bit of a shine to these. Haven't played around with these parts. Can you cross these vented areas? And they don't seem to be even. Maybe it is flat. It seemed like it was running my camera across it. Nope, definitely flat. Alright. I am tempted to start over just because of this. That to a list of parts I can actually put down. So I can't pick them back up again. Let's see. Would love that. Oh, wait, that shouldn't have saved. That was my bad. Make a new level. Let's see, I believe it was the Oasis music. Give it probably the space station sky. Alright. Build that real quick. Start away from the center, work our way in. Hole. Down some of that red water again. I suppose it's called blood water. Yes. 0.1. There we go. Have that aligned. Wrong way. Make that 2 wide. Nope, not the way. Four wide. Now, I feel like we should be a little bit nicer and not use these jelly blocks as an outer wall. That way the player won't get reset immediately. Just the starting hole. It's supposed to be a little bit easier. Alright, so grab that pirate ship. There, shrink it down. Easier when it's not on snap because it's so huge. There we go. That should be fine. Maybe a smidge smaller. Have that extend down the whole length. Yeah, I'll try to include like some kind of indicator what to do if like ever use a unusual mechanic. Surprised how just confusion some people seem to have with these. I think they're pretty straightforward, but that's just me. But yeah. Push that over. Try and make the same length. 36. Right. And I suppose we'll just use the walls from this. I don't think there are any more interesting options. Could mix the themes, I suppose. Potentially something like this. I do like the wood for this. I think that fits pretty well. Are you kidding me? Can I not interact with this? Wow. No? Really? I can't interact with this wood. Is that the case? No, just with that piece? Okay, I can use the smaller piece. That's the same one. Alright. Apparently I can't use that size of wood. It's intangible, but the other sizes still work. Whatever. Use that as the wall. I don't want to have to reset the map again, so I'll just cover up that other piece later. One more of these. Gotta make all-in-one worth going for. Stand out our walls here. No, not making these a little bit taller, I think. This fits the general aesthetic a bit better. We'll make this a story map. It's more inspiration fuel for players. Well, so now I can't grab this one either. So I could click that a minute ago. Maybe it's just this size of wall that I can actually select. I have an awkward characteristic clicking or like moving stuff around when it's like next to water. Like I'm duplicating the item, but I can't move it around because there's water behind it. It's a big annoyance I ran into when making Frosty's Fortress. Because there's a lot of water on that map. Basically means whenever you want to spawn in an item, you have to do it away from water, else they'll just kind of get stuck like that. Alright, do this sideways. Suppose I should have made these size of the platform. What was it? I think it's supposed to be 1.5. I think about it. A little bit of clipping going on there. I'll use some poles. It goes down to 0.5-ish. Level. Down our flag. Yeah. I'm really feeling this flag. How about a purple one? Yeah, alrighty. Ball at the end, turn to snap, rotate backwards. Yeah, already. And I'll just cover these up. I can't select either. Some nice devious music. Now, unfortunately, it does make it harder to see when it goes through multiple of these. And it's not dependent upon the thickness of the water. How many of the water should go through. I think about there is where I had the hole in one. Aww. In. Okay. Fortune favors the bold. Let's make that go into the ground a little bit. About there. Okay. Center that. That'll work. Alright. What should our next hole be? Perhaps a shifting platform. I think aesthetically I like these best. I'm not sure. I forget how they look on bottom. Yeah, those look pretty good on bottom. Enlarge that a little bit. Again, they look out of sync right now, but once we save and go back in, it will be reset. So I'm thinking I'd like to have upper and lower platform. See if we can resize these so that they'll go up and down. Side positions. An adequate amount of space between these. That should be plenty. How tall do I have to make this? Less. About 3. Let's see, okay, a little bit less. Try 2.5. Move that up. Alright, less than that. 2.2. Yeah, right. $2.1. $2.1. Suppose we could leave it so can't get back on at the bottom. Incentivizing staying on top more. Line that with the top platform. This, doesn't appear perfectly flat. Interesting. Have to see how that plays out. these. And line these up. Like, I'll need to resize these, but just a bit smaller. And these aren't globally aligned. Just that. Throw them this way. That should be adequate. Flip a little bit, but more or less flat on top, so that won't really matter. Put the hole down at this end. Give it some walls. Suppose I could widen out this area a little bit. Starting position. Up. Slightly higher than the actual platform. There we go. Our wall. Want to extend this. There should do. Well, it doesn't look too bad when you stretch it out. Fortunately, this woodblock doesn't have any major imperfections. Oh wait, I did not resize these, did I? The 1.5, right? There we go. I should match it up nicely. This needs to be a smidge closer. And add an inner wall. Oh, that's interesting. What is that? Weird broken block. Huh. I just grab a wall piece. Which... could be a wood wall I can use. Yeah, maybe just pirate wall. Up. And just mirror these. I could just not add a back wall. That's a fair option. Yeah, so now we'll just save it. Back out. Put it back in. Now those are all nice and aligned. Make sure our ball can get across this. It's a similar issue where you have only an instant to make your shot once you land on these. But they don't have much friction to them. Oof. Ooh, okay, made it up. It's just enough time you could like full power to get across. Do I want to have like a stopping station midway through? Just have a platform there. Notice my ball's been kind of running into the different spikes and still run into their hitboxes. So ideally, I would want to do this to where each segment is only one spike. Just like elongate them. No, we don't have that issue. Thinking I might make just like multiple paths. Have like one long one down the center, and then have a couple of side paths with like stops. Not to get the right length. Shorter. There we go. Oh, hey, Joe. Doing alright. Trying out a new level. Just gonna play, friggin' Minecraft. Wasn't really feeling up to it since they got the 1.16 update out. For this, I was just like in my testing area. All the different mechanics potentially do. How about you, Joe? What's new? Still feeling lonely with the crew gone? A lot of work to do. Seems you've been doing a fair number of collaborations with other YouTubers. Two wide section with a platform in the middle. I mean, I'm free to record whenever. I would assume Sunday's your day, but I don't know. That wasn't the case last week. Whenever you're free to record, I suppose. Or anything. I'm probably gonna get a job in the next couple weeks, to be honest, but yeah. Just enjoying this time. Actually, I should have a smaller floor area I can work with. Let's see. Suppose there's like the individual tiles. Oh, there's a 3x3. Just tell me when you are available. Friday or Saturday. Alrighty. I'm assuming you're not done with your level. Imagine you haven't had much time for that. Let's see. 5. Oh Lord, no. Sure. Yeah, we can do your level again. Found a custom level. Yeah, I actually played that, whatchamacallit, that train level you mentioned. Turned out a couple of the holes weren't actually completable. It's a nice visual, nonetheless. The factory. It's not quite aligned with the wall. Oh yeah, I've done quite a few I've done quite a few levels on stream that we could do. Weeded out a lot of trash. Don't know if I'll actually finish this one or not, but yeah. Five. Interesting visual. Yeah, I've mostly just been watching a lot of streams. Like a group of gamers enjoy. spend all day watching that alone. Alright, save. Dire. And back in. All nice and aligned. Another shot. It's not quite centered, is it? It is not. Should be good. Right, back to start. Ooh, that's fun. I like that. If you time it right, you can just bounce back up there. And I feel like these side paths are unnecessary. Hey! Thanks for the donation, Mr. Joe. You have a good night, too. There's little enough friction on these. You can just like kind of slide your way onto a platform if you time it right. But once you stop, it suddenly becomes much more difficult. Alright, so what I'll do, I'll include a back wall. There. So that'll be the benefit of using those. Or less likely to fall out. That's an interesting setup. Okay. Content with that. Maybe shrink it down a smidge. 1.8. There we go. It's a little bit better that way. Very nice. Let's see. Do something bomb-centric next. Let's see. Some landmines. Line them with 4 there so they count as platforms. One of the things that make the mines less threatening, the fact that you can just run into them, bounce off, but instead you can just roll on top of them. Actually land on them and get the full effect of the explosion. Hold down. Right about there. Also, it becomes less clear as to where the explosive area is. Which these all overlap. What kind of gap? Let's see, what is the appropriate gap? That'll work right there. As their explosive radius is right about along that ring. Have them alternate in this fashion. That's actually too far away. And there is still a gap where you won't blow up. So how do I actually want to set these up? So that there's still like boards in the way. But I could just have like heightened sides. So, you know, if you do get blown up, you're less likely to fling as far. Like this. Want a little bit more back to this. If I do that, just so it doesn't obstruct the camera. Of course, it doesn't have to be just super thin like this. I can widen it out more. Try changing that to 0.5. Could align a little bit better that way. It's not really any different. Could use a bunch of dud bombs. I forget what the exact length was, where it stopped affecting all. Make walls out of this potentially. I don't want to stretch this out sideways, though, and its hitbox will be stretched as well. Yeah. Undesired direction. Kind of have to keep these in 2s if I'm going to use them. A little bit more space for your camera there. But still balanced pretty good, even though they don't like explode. I suppose I could have floating mines. Should still affect the ball if you're close enough underneath. Yeah. Hadn't really considered that option. A little bit surprised that the hitbox, well, I suppose the hitbox is just high enough so you don't run into it. Weird how that dirt is like slightly transparent. Some of the places. Oh. Alright. So make ourselves a nice little pattern. Could just completely close off certain areas. And I think it's a good layout. Like, I can make a minefield, but that's not that interesting. I still need obstacles you can run into along the way. How do I want to set that up? Now that I think about it, that's one thing I'm not sure about. Is I guess I'll have to test that, but I'm not sure if explosions triggered by one player affect another player. Because if you can have one player trigger the mine and then have another player be blown up by it, that adds some interesting potential. So I could just make like an itty bitty mine. So small. Alright, right about there. That way, when one player activates it, unlock all the other players back. Does make this a little bit more interesting. I was gonna make these like the platforms, but I could just make them have a smaller like activation range. I want them a little bit bigger than this though. 2-ish maybe. does make it tempting to try and power through the mines that way. So make a little fence out of landmines. Yeah, the option is try and hop over these. A bit bigger though. A little bit less of a gap. Still doable. Get through that and probably jump over them if you want to. It increases their activation range though. It's the main issue. And now it's a lot harder to make a even wall out of. Gotta duplicate them in place and slide them over here. A nice wall of landmines. Way to get through it on again. Have a little grid of smaller landmines. After that, probably spaced out a little better. About there. Give him a little alleyway. They want to be a coward and not hit any mines. And a lot of these, which don't actually, blow up the player, but provide, just an interesting wall that they'll be afraid of hitting. And after that, we can have the sunken landmines. Which you can just barely see the top of. Wrong object. quite line up, does it? Z-axis is not lined up. Grabbing the wrong item, wasn't I? Okay. All this needs to be scooted to be right a smooth. Lined up properly. I'll be like right along the wall. There will be gaps where the player won't be hittable by the explosive. It'll be very, very narrow. There we go. Let's see. Might make a second one of these. That should be about enough area for the mines. Shrink them, or sink them down a little bit, so just their head is visible. I think I might get rid of this first section of them. Just so there's a little bit of a gap right there. Player to like figure out what the hell what's going on. Exit wall right about there. Mostly just terrifying to have to run into. Maybe turn into a little bit of Blinko. I should wipe those. There we go. Just enough room to fit a ball through there. Maybe not a large size ball. And that'll stick through the wall a little bit if I line up. Just a little. Just have it alternate here. And we'll make the end goal. About there-ish. So would these fit in? I don't know why it's vertical like that. I don't think it's normally supposed to be vertical. Leaves a little bit of a gap, but that's a little bit better, I suppose. You can go in and just do like the individual tiles if I need to. I suppose it would be fairest to get rid of these red dots, because the player won't be able to see them. I don't know why I can grab those so easily. There you go. It's outside the wall. Seems like selection point expands upwards fairways. You have a vertical hitbox. Oh, interesting. Test this out real quick. It's angled so I can't quite make it through those holes. Where my ball starts out. Good. Might be able to make like a bounce off the wall. That is terrifying though. Love it. Now those red dots are the most likely to get you. Yeah, right. We ideally want to make a shot. Can I zoom out more than this? Ideally, we want to make a shot straight through. Right about there. Just don't want to stop in that area anywhere. There are gaps where it won't blow you up, but it's risky regardless. You could make this a little bit tighter of a gap. Felt pretty lenient. Give the ball a little bit more room. Camera. Suppose we could just like make these fuller walls. the outside. Let's see. One final little bit. Let's see, I'd like to include giant mine. Ooh, that's probably, now that I think about it, that's what we could do. So, sort of what I did in the editor. Make a little bridge you have to cross. So that won't actually blow you up. I'll shrink down a little bit. It's a little bit uneven. Roll on it well enough. It does make it annoying trying to select stuff. Suppose I could be a little bit more the size of this. Come on. There we go. Flag in the end. Going with purple this time around. Has that same sort of effect if you have like water in the background. You have one of these in the background. It might just be like the size of it. And dragging through its actual selection box. Maybe add in some of these that actually work. Since we've, as far just tricked them into believing they don't affect your ball at all. Shrink them down a little bit. Nice little end bit. Get rid of these walls. One more little playthrough. And those will just constantly go off over in the area. It does appear, though, that maybe their hitbox also vanishes once they explode. Oh, they're not as flat as I thought they were. Thought I could use them as a bridge, but maybe not. Let me grab the one in the middle, please. Right there. Why can I not select? I had it for a second there. There we go. Come on. Alright. Widening it out helps at all. A little bit of a gap. Come on. Probably end up repositioning the ball a little bit. A little bit harder to get through. Well, I can play from this. Yeah, sadly those won't work. Unfortunate. I think I'll still include one of them though, just to have that obnoxious noise going off. Then I could just do that bridge idea I had. I could have it so that the explosive ends alternate. You're sort of forced to go down the center. Go down the side, you'll end up blowing up. Just to hide a little bit. Something like this. I'm gonna move this out of the way for now so we're not accidentally clicking on it. Then we'll go and make another of these. Rotate it the opposite direction. Line it up over here. Which, let's see. Oh, figures. Actually, reset this. Those are all misaligned. 70. Scooch it over. That about 0.5. That should line up well enough to make a bridge. A little bit annoying dragging these into place. If it'll let me grab this one. There we go. Maybe if I try selecting it from the other end. There we go, yeah. Seems to prefer selecting these from the top. There we go. Come on. There we go. Couple more. All right. There's our explosive bridge. We should be fine if we go across the center of. If we land along sides, it will blow us up. Interesting that it sets off all of these explosives. So, can we make it across this? Ooh. Ah, that presents an issue. Okay. So for some reason, all these green poles explode at the same time when you hit one of them. Means we can't have those side poles. They will also explode. A little bit less power. Okay. Land right before the bridge. More power than that. Okay, actually that's fine. So from here, can we make it across the bridge? Yes! It's not easy, but we can do it. Which I think want a little bit more space here. Apparently I can just move these in. But yeah. Just a little bit more space for the player to line their camera up. I don't think I'll include a back wall though. I feel like this negates enough momentum. Kinda works. Alright. Digging it so far. Alright, and of course we gotta include our the end. Nice big aesthetic mine. About the same size as the platform. Go down a little bit. Acceptable. Oh, yeah. Just steadily bring in a few more concepts from our little testing area. Try those out. Yeah, it's nice having slightly more advanced mechanics to play around with. Keep new players on their toes. I think I'll call it there, though. That was fun. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And I will see you next time. Have a good night.